right, Lucy and Rob, thank you guys for talking with me today. So I was really especially excited to talk to the two of you, so I'm grateful that you said yes, because while we do have couples who come in and do Master Your Magic either together at the same time like you did, or maybe the first person will come one year and then the next year they'll send their spouse, like I think you would really enjoy this. And so the both of them get kind of this wealth of knowledge, which is a really beautiful thing. A lot of times what winds up happening is that one partner has a background in this or is more familiar with it and the other one doesn't. And because you two come with that perspective, I thought it would be really helpful for people to hear from you. So Lucy, you had a lot of background in energy work and you've studied this a lot. And Rob, it was pretty new to you. So I would love if you guys would talk a little bit about what that was like getting first, just what was it like getting to do this together? And then we can dive into what was it like for each of you coming into the program. You know, I always talk about it being for both beginner and advanced students. So I want to touch on that with you guys too.
Okay.
Good.
Can I go first?
You can go first. Why don't you tell the story of how you talked me into it?
Well, I had already been working with Cara, and Rob and I basically started to go through a big transition in our relationship, like really big, huge shifting, and we just like were not really relating very well. We were having trouble with communicating. And I don't know, Cara just mentioned that she had this Master Your Magic class that might be helpful, that maybe if Rob could learn some of the things, because I have more of a background with energy work, and so if Rob could learn some of the things that I know and to be able to communicate with me a little bit better along those lines, maybe that would open up some communication and make things go a little bit smoother. And so I mentioned it to him and basically talked him into it. Saying that I think it would be really good, and I think that especially with everything that we were going through, to have, you know, every week where we're sitting down and doing some kind of learning practice and meditation, and then being able to relate to some other people in the group. And so I just thought it would be good for, you know, our relationship, and then also for him and what he like was going through as well.
I'd challenge a little bit of what you said there to say that,
Okay.
that we were communicating a lot. We just, in fact, I think over communicated. What we weren't making was any real progress or growth. We had sort of hit a stalling point. You know, we sometimes we'd spend hours talking about issues and stuff and problems, not so much problems, but just general. But it's like nothing was changing, nothing was shifting, nothing was developing a better understanding. We were just at loggerheads. And I had or have kind of a longer background in a different style of meditation than Master Magic was. More of a Zen Buddhist type background between that with martial arts, a little bit on my own, yoga type meditation, the less sort of guided imagery type stuff. So I was kind of willing to explore that. And fortunately, this all happened right around the beginning of the pandemic. So it turns out we had lots of time to work on this stuff together and talk about it. So that was kind of a benefit of COVID, if there is such a thing. But yeah, and you know, I was a little hesitant at first about spending the money to put down for the course, not knowing much about it. But Lucy had such glowing recommendations of you, Cara, that she kind of talked me into it. And I talked with you briefly about it and still really wasn't sure what I was getting into, but it was something for us to try together and we had fun. So
What would you say were some of the benefits that you got out of having done this, not just together, but each individually even? What were some of the benefits that came out of the program for you?
Well, for me, because I do have a more of a background in this stuff, and it's right along the lines of what I already know, but Cara, just you taught it a little bit differently than some of the things that I already knew. And so for me, because I love this stuff anyway, it was just extra practice, and also a couple things that I could add into my own practice and use different techniques with my clients as well. And so that was really the benefit for me, is just learning something different and having the practice, the time to practice. I mean, it's always nice to have somebody else hold the container for you, right? And so between me and Rob, I still kind of laugh. Like, well, one, I feel like it was really helpful to update our relationship, which is something that you teach in Master Your Magic. And so we were able to update that to help with the communication issues, or not that we weren't communicating, but that we just weren't really on the same wavelength. And I think that started to help to give us some more space to be able to communicate more effectively. And the other thing that we still kind of use, we do still use it, is the basic thing, like the first day that you taught the ground and center that you always go back to. Like, we still will be like, if we'll kind of get heated or like into a bit of an argument or something, we'll be like, I think we should take a break and ground and center. So, I mean, we still use that.
And it's worked multiple places, actually. I mean, it's worked in the car while we're driving. I think that was the first time I pulled that out, as we were driving, and yeah.
I think the next time I talked to you, Cara, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. He just told me to ground and center. He told me that. Like, I was the one wanting him to ground and center.
It's a little more difficult to ground and center while I'm driving, but yeah.
I think that's one of the best things, is that no matter how much experience we have in this work, when we're in the thick of humaning and something feels challenging, it can sometimes be hard to remember or to think of reaching for one of your tools, and even maybe hard to decipher in the moment of like breakdown or intense emotion or whatever it is, which tool to grab for. And when you have someone, especially the person closest to you, that has this vocabulary, that has this background, that can say, have you checked in with your damaged child? Maybe you need to update this thing. Have you looked at this? Maybe you've got other energy going on. Did you check on these things? It's so, so helpful to have somebody that close and not have to wait for 4 days before you finally think, maybe I should text Cara, but like have somebody right up in your face say, maybe you should just ground and center for a second. Maybe this is a little more than you've got. You know, maybe this isn't all your stuff, where maybe we're bringing up some things that don't have to do with what we're talking about right here.
Yeah, especially in terms of settling down a more heated discussion. It's nice to have something of a while you're not actually present with us, Cara, something of a third party using these terms and these tools to sort of from the ether step in and settle things down. And it doesn't become, you know, instead of maybe saying, taking the classic time out, you know, that people might say, that I think sometimes can be viewed as a little passive aggressive or a little accusatory, makes the other person defensive. And when you both have some of the same language and the same terms, tools, however you want to call it, that helps smooth things over too. So that's really nice and a really big benefit of doing the course.
Awesome. How did you find coming into it, Rob, with, I know you said you had meditation experience, but coming into it not really knowing what to expect. How did you find coming in and working through the course?
It was really interesting at first. You know, most of the Zen style, yoga style meditation is all about kind of emptying your mind and just trying to clear everything out. And this is more kind of a guided meditation where you're bringing things in and trying to picture things and sort of let the universe speak to you in a way, and see what imagery your head comes up with. So while having only taken the course once, I still feel like there's a lot more that I could do with that. It was a really interesting and exploratory experience, and that was a lot of fun actually doing it together, because you know, after the class was over, usually in the evening we'd trade stories back and forth about, well, what did you picture and what did you picture, and oh, that's really interesting, or no, I went completely the opposite direction. And so that was fun part of it too, actually.
I think that's a really beautiful part, is people getting to share their different experiences and then realize just how different it is for each person, and how there's messages that come through that you wouldn't have recognized until you saw how different your version was than other people. So it's really special you guys got to do that together.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
What advice would you have for couples coming in who are considering something like this, both to the person who is maybe more gung-ho or has done a lot of this before, and the person who's maybe more hesitant and this is a little more new?
I think just coming in with beginner's mind. And I know for like the first, you know, one or two, and I was like, I felt like I wanted to say more stuff and get some, like, a different perspective in there. And then I was like, no, I'm just going to sit back. So I decided to sit back and just, you know, let the class unfold and just be there holding space and being present with it, and just, you know, walk through the materials myself. I took lots of notes, and so again, just that beginner's mind, I think, is really helpful.
Yeah, I would say that was the same for me too. You know, it took a little bit, probably a session or two, for me to get sort of deprogrammed from emptying my mind to allowing things to come in. So I would say trying to go into it with just listen to the instructor and go with it as much as you can, to try and shift things around and get a different perspective, whether you come from doing zero meditation practice or have been doing it for years. I was actually quite surprised at how quiet you were, but that was nice that you allowed that space for me too. So
Yeah.
Nicely done.
it definitely felt like I was the one with the training wheels on.
Yeah.
Throughout the class, not just with Lucy, but other people in the class too. Just so much of it comes out that, you know, I felt like I was hanging on to the tail of the airplane trying to catch up with everybody else. But it was still worth it and good to do.
And you did amazing.
I kept encouraging him to share too, because I was like, you have a totally different perspective than other people. Even though you're a total beginner, like, it's still helpful for other people to hear.
Maybe the second time around. I felt for once I felt shy.
For once.
It is really funny. I see that happen with people that I know, you know, because we've had conversations and everything, and I wouldn't describe you right off the bat as shy, but I see that so commonly. We get the group moving, and oftentimes the people sharing are the ones who have been doing this. Maybe this is their third or fourth round even, because you can come back and take it again and again. And then maybe some of the people who are newer, there might be one or two that are asking questions, but a lot of them are like, whoa, this is a lot. and get shy.
Yeah, there was a lot of value, I think, in having people of all different levels in there, because you could see that people had been doing it, and wow, things just really flowed with them. And then there'd be other people like me where it was like, oh, it's coming in stops and starts. You know, one thing works really good, and this one maybe not so much. So it it was nice having a mixture.
That's a great way to explain it. The stops and starts and certain things that you feel really drawn to. This practice was really easy for me. That one felt a little bumpier. Yeah, that's a really great description.
Mm.
So, okay, my last question is, who would you recommend take Master Your Magic?
Anyone. I mean, I would say, I mean, just based on our experience, it was really nice to, if you're going through something big in your life, and obviously we signed up before the quarantine and COVID hit, so it was actually really nice to have this as a container when we were going through all of this emotional stuff on a global level. But, you know, Rob and I were going through something pretty big in our own personal lives as well. And so for us, like, that's who I would recommend in particular, just to have that container and then be able to have those tools to meditate and to shift the energy around.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And, even, we've mentioned COVID a few times on here, but even if that wouldn't have come up, I think the course would help people dealing when anything unexpected comes up. Job challenges, accidents, injuries, death of a loved one, just anything. It's applicable to just about every phase of life if you choose to find the connections and the pathways to sort of make all that work. So, I mean, speaking for us, since you're singling us out as a couple, I think it was just a great thing to do as a couple, married, dating, engaged, whatever, or conceivably even between best friends, because I think we're best friends. And just even between a set of best friends would be fun to do together. So.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I totally agree with you. Thank you both for taking the time today. This really means so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
I had one other thing to say.
Please.
So I know I don't know if you want to share this, but we ended up partnering up together where you had like 5 questions, and that was actually really super helpful as well for us to communicate in a different way than what we were normally used to communicating. So like just answering those questions, having that 2-minute period where we just say whatever is on our minds and get it out. And yeah, it was really helpful, especially during this time when we were not communicating as effectively. And some things that like I didn't know were on his mind came up by answering these questions, and it gave me like a better and a bigger perspective of what was going on in his head, outside of like all this other stuff that we were trying to communicate and work through.
Yeah.
So that was actually really helpful to be partnered up together and answer those questions.
It really helped put yourself in somebody else's shoes. That particular exercise or exercises of seeing things from their perspective, or even just hearing things that they just did not feel like talking about, just to hear them come up and go, oh, that's why maybe you were acting a little grumpy or a little sad or even overly happy. Like, what are you so happy about?
Yeah.
But and therefore happiness can be shared.
Yeah. Oh, good. I'm so glad. And I loved that you guys chose to be partners with each other for that practice.
Yeah.
Which I think is quite an indication of that best friend thing, in addition to the marriage, like you're saying.
It's well worth it.
Anything else that you guys think would be helpful to share with people about this experience?
I still feel like the newbie.
You are.
But it's a lifelong journey, so,
It is a lifelong journey. And you're sitting next to someone who's been doing it for a lifelong. So that's fair. That's a fair thing to feel. And also, you did amazing going through this. It's really big, deep work, and you did so good.
Thanks.
Yeah.